You spin my head right round when you go down, when you say pronouns. Oh my god. You spin my head right round when you go down, when you say pronouns.
Not the one making this.
This guy is such a whiny baby.
But
I'd be embarrassed. I'd be embarrassed, bro.
I'm not the one making this decision. We have lawyers that don't want to do this.
But the buck stops in this office.
Oh, X is the worst website in the world, bro.
You want me to follow
Oh my
the law?
god, bro. What the hell's wrong with this dumbass website?
Court has ordered you to
Can't even pause a video on this dumbass website, dude. Swear to God. Donald Trump is the dumbest, most insecure. I'd be embarrassed to talk about this guy in any category of leader or masculine or man or whatever.
But the court has ordered you to facilitate that.
I'm not the one making this decision. We have lawyers that don't want to do this.
But the buck stops in this office.
No.
I'm not the one making this decision. We have lawyers who don't want to do this. So the lawyers are in charge of this administration. Trump has zero ability to make any decisions. Apparently.
Follow the law. You want me to follow the law? If I were the president that just wanted to do anything, I'd probably keep him right where he is.
Supreme Court says what the law is.
Listen, I was elected to...
Listen, I was elected. I'm not going to answer the question. I'm going to go to my propaganda mode.
Take care of a problem. It was a unforced error that was made by a very incompetent man, a man that turned out to be incompetent, that you always said was wonderful, great genius, right? And now you find out, all of the media now, they're saying what a mistake they made. A man who was grossly incompetent allowed us to have open borders where millions of people flowed in. I campaigned on that issue. I wouldn't say it was my number.
Again, illegally deporting people, okay, deporting American citizens, deporting American citizen children with cancer with no chance for any reasonable due process, deporting someone who came here for amnesty legally through a legal port of entry, who survived shock therapy in Venezuela, professional soccer players, autism awareness advocates, deporting them with no due process, abducting them, sending them to a torture camp in El Salvador. None of that is involved with what the bullshit Trump is about to speak. Okay, none of that is in any world of similarity. Trump needs to run away from all responsibility. He's a little weak, pathetic baby. And he proves it every time he needs to actually do something. They're walking around today talking like, oh, Donald Trump, 100 days of success. And the biggest successes are banning paper straws. Wow, bro, you banned paper straws and you wrote executive orders. You said, I want things to happen. You put in no work. You put in zero work to get shit done. Zero work. You signed executive orders like a little baby. Little whiny diva. Do this thing. Bring manufacturing back to America. Zero actual plans or understanding of how to do anything. Ignoring Supreme Court rulings. Making up dumbass excuses.
Number one issue, but it was pretty close.
Right up there.
I campaigned on that issue. I've done an amazing job. I have closed borders. He said you couldn't do it. You wouldn't be able to do it. It would never happen. Well, it happened. And it happened very quickly. Wait a minute. When we have criminals, murderers, criminals in this country, we have to get him out, and we're doing it.
By law.
And you'll pick out one man, but even the man that you picked out, he said he
There are dozens of people.
wasn't a member of a gang. And then they looked, and on his knuckles, he had MS-13.
There's a dispute
Well,
over that.
wait a minute. He had MS-13 on his knuckles tattooed.
Oh, he had some tattoos that are interpreted that way. But let's move on.
Wait a minute. Hey, Terry.
He did not
Don't
have the
do that.
letter MS-13.
It says MS-13.
That was Photoshopped.
Trump believed it. Trump believed that shitty Photoshop. Trump actually believed that Photoshop. Bro, get this guy in a home. Get this guy in a damn home, bro. He believed that Photoshop. The MS-13 Photoshop, bro. He believed the actual letters in that Photoshop were really tattoos. Holy crap. He thought this was real? He thought this was real. Bro, we're lucky he doesn't drive. Holy crap. He be causing 50-car pileups every turn. Holy crap, dude. Imagine being this broken mentally. That's insane. That's actually wild.
Member of a gang.
That's crazy. That's actually crazy, bro. There's no way in hell. There's no way, dude.
So let me
That was Photoshop, Terry. You can't do that. Hey, they're giving you the big break of a lifetime. You know, you're doing the interview. I picked you because, frankly, I never heard of you, but that's okay. But I picked you, Terry. But you're not being very nice. He had MS.
Okay, so Trump is believing complete false things, and his response to being like lightly corrected is, "You're being mean to me." The diva, pathetic baby, whiny energy. Holy shit, bro. Y'all need dads or something. I don't know where they went wrong, but you think this guy is the pinnacle of what it means to be a strong person in general? Holy crap. You're being so mean to me. Life is so unfair. He sounds like an emo girl after a breakup in 7th grade.
13 tattoo.
We'll agree to disagree. I want to move on to something else.
Terry, do you want me to show you the picture?
I saw the picture. We'll
and you think it
agree
was
to disagree.
Photoshop? Well,
Here we go. Here we go.
Don't Photoshop it. Go look at his hand. He
Fair
had
enough.
MS-13.
He did have tattoos that can be interpreted that way. I'm not an expert on them. I want to turn to Ukraine,
No,
sir.
Terry,
I want to get to
Terry,
Ukraine.
No. He had MS as clear as you can be, not interpreted. This is why people no longer believe the news, because
when
it's
he was
fake
photographed
news.
Just remember that whenever Trump says this is why no one believes the news, it's fake news. He believes this MS-13. He believes these are actual tattoos. He believes this Photoshop are actual tattoos. And Trump says this is the reason you can't believe fake news. Now, if you're a Trump supporter, when you hear Trump talk about the establishment, there are issues, for sure. Is Trump extremely corrupt? Yes. Is he giving free passes and free influence to whoever gives him a bribe? Yes. Is he using state power to become more rich and more corrupt? He's doing very bad things. But think about this, okay? Whenever Trump says, this is why you cannot trust the mainstream media. This is an example of why Trump says you cannot trust the mainstream media. Now think about the other topics where Trump says you cannot trust the mainstream media and realize how insane this is. Think about this. He thinks this is real. It says it actually says MS-13. He's telling the interviewer, "You're being mean to me. You got to change my diaper over this." What else does Trump say? You can't trust the mainstream media because of this. Because we can understand basic. I don't even know what kind of competency test. I know Trump did good on the test where he says, "Wow, here's a picture of a yellow school bus," and Trump knows it's a yellow school bus. Wow, and Trump's like, "I passed a competency test." Oh my God!
In El Salvador, they aren't there. But let's just go on. They aren't there when he's in El Salvador.
They weren't there, but they're there now, right?
No,
but they're
in
now.
your picture.
Terry,
Ukraine, sir.
He's got MS-13 on his knuckles.
All right.
Okay?
Well, we'll take a look at that.
You do such a disservice.
We'll take a look at that,
Why don't you
sir.
just say, yes, he does? And
Why don't you just listen to the king and all the lies? Why don't you just go along with my lies? Why don't you just go along with all of my violations of the law in service of trusting this kind of... It's not even a Photoshop, bro. You know, the purpose of this image originally was to say, okay, he has tattoos. We're going to interpret this as marijuana. This is smile, so MS, okay? And then a cross for 1 and a skull for 3. That's the argument they made with this Photoshop. Which, any of this, without due process, doesn't matter. But still, that's the argument they made. They never made this photo to be convincing to say the MS-13 were actual tattoos, okay? They did this to say, hey, we think this means M, this means S, this means 1, this means 3. The fact that Trump thinks these numbers and letters are actual tattoos on his hand. Do you realize how far gone that is? Do you realize how far gone that is? Anyone who said anything about Biden's mental acuity, if you don't talk about this, you're a partisan hack. At least Biden has actual bills in Congress that passed to do things for America. But Trump is crashing the economy. I don't even know. I don't even think he knows where he is right now. Does he know where he is right now?
The court has ordered you to facilitate that.
I'm not the one.
That's crazy. It's sad to watch, bro. Someone's got to help him. He's obviously in pain right now. I don't think he should be in public talking to people because I don't like seeing elder abuse. Who's this guy? Is this guy calling? Do you think Trump is failing to lead the country? Yes, he is. Call me. You can call the phone number if you want to call in, by the way. Feel free. Call the phone number. It's a good time. Okay, what else did Trump say in this dumbass interview, dude? Holy crap. I can't imagine being such a baby.
Is a tax that is perfect. But you yourself acknowledged the last time you were here, a tariff is a tax that is passed on to consumers. You've said that pretty bluntly. The question, I think, that was raised today is, why is it the responsibility of a CEO or someone who owns a company to shield the White House from the cost of their policies by not raising
What
prices?
do you shield? That's what a business owner does. We prepare for the markets ahead.
But all businesses are not going to eat these prices. You don't think that?
So he's talking about, and she's talking about, Trump forcing Amazon to not put the tariff charge at the end of their like checkout, for their website, and they used state power to pressure Amazon into not doing that. So like a sales tax, you can see a sales tax on the bottom of your check, when you check out, and you'll see, okay, you're paying this much in sales tax. They were gonna do that for tariffs, the rumor said, and the Trump White House is so mad about that. The reason you would not show, for example, other forms of taxation in that number is because for federal taxes, for corporate taxes, for income taxes, those are taxed at the end of your business, okay? At the end of all your transactions, at the end of moving your assets around, at the end, okay? When you talk about the profit margins of different projects, all right, at the point of sale, tariffs and sales tax happen at the point of sale. So after you do all your profit margins and your production and all the costs for the year, okay, when you sell that product to someone, you're going to say, okay, this is my final price. I'm selling this item for $20. And then you're going to say, well, it's not 20 anymore. It's going to go this up. It's going to go up this much from sales tax and this much from the tariff tax, from the import tax.
Call from
Jacob.
Okay. 1 second. I'm here. 1 second. Wait, you can call back. I answered. Whoever that was. I answered, buddy.
Hello.
Hey, this is the YouTube guy. What's up?
I was checking who it was.
You're good. What's up? Do you want to talk about something?
I saw this live stream. Is this your live stream?
Yeah, this is the YouTube live stream. Yeah. What's up?
So, I thought prices would go down, but they haven't yet. It's really weird.
Yeah. The big thing is, someone can talk a lot, right? When they're not in power, when they're not in charge. Like if you watch an NFL game, someone could be like, I could do that better than Tom Brady, or I could do that better than LeBron James. But once they're actually in the game in charge, it's a lot harder to just talk your way out of things. And Trump is good at talking, but he's terrible when he's actually in power. He's really good at talking, though. So he said prices would go down. Now Trump's saying you have to deal with pain, major pain, a period of transition where the economy is going to crash, prices are going to be bad, necessary pain. So after Trump said the entire campaign, prices are going to go down day one. Now he's saying prices need to go up. So yeah, it is confusing.
Yeah, I have thought that, and my mother was getting upset because she keeps saying that he's feeling, because he kept saying like he's gonna fix everything, he's gonna make prices go down. Nothing has changed really.
Yeah, it's getting a lot worse. And that tariff they talk about is a tax on us. It's an import tax. So if we buy something from Canada or like coffee, for example, we cannot make coffee in America. We can't grow that here. So like we'll get it from like Colombia, Ethiopia, a bunch of different countries that can grow coffee. So when you buy coffee now, it's going to be a tax to the government. The government's raising taxes a ton on the stuff we buy every single day. And goods you get at the grocery store, at Amazon, Walmart, every store you shop at. This is a big tax on us. And that's another reason we're mad about it, because it's the government taking taxes from us, and they're acting like they're doing us a favor.
But what I think is the government just doesn't care. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, Trump definitely doesn't care, apparently, because it's his choice to do the tariffs alone. I mean, he's the person saying it's going to fix America. So it's his, if it works, it's his benefit. If it doesn't work, then he's to blame,
I mean, that's true. But who do you think would have been worse? Do you think Kamala would have been worse? I'm not trying to say I'm a Kamala fan, nothing like that. I'm not really at all. But I'm just asking you.
Well, the issue is people didn't like Kamala from her personality or the way she laughed, or they don't like the way liberals talk. But her plans were actually good plans for the government. It's not always going to be flashy or likable. But when it comes to their actual plans in office, I mean, we could have predicted this was going to happen. I was talking about this on my channel from Trump's economic plan. It's going to blow up the deficit. It's going to make America more poor. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt our partnerships and our trade deals. So I mean, like Kamala, 100%. It's not even a debate that she would have been better for the government and for the economy and for all that kind of stuff. She was not my first pick at all, by the way. But just like I don't care about Democrat, Republican as much as just the policies they run on, but I do think a lot of people run on social issues. So gay people, LGBT, immigration, all that kind of stuff.
Oh
So
yeah.
that's the main thing people vote on. So it's hard to have a discussion about like economics because it's really complicated too.
Yeah, it's really surprising because it's like my grandma goes to Costco. I think it's like all the way in PA, like Warminster. So she goes there like mostly every Saturday, Sunday. She'll come home, she'll like buy pizza, chicken bake, soda. We all love that stuff. She'll come home like with a receipt. It's like 300, $400 on the receipt, and then she's having to pay all these high bills. They even raised like the taxes and all on her house.
Yep. Yeah.
So she's like upset.
Yeah, and tariffs. I mean, when you tax everything people import. So if you're gonna build a business, for example, you need supplies, you need lumber, concrete, a bunch of different metals. You need batteries and other equipment to help build that factory, or the to transport materials. So after you tariff everything from every country globally, that's going to raise costs on literally everything, and that's going to the government. Big taxes from the big government, taxing us with no like goal in sight. And I would just say like it's going to get worse before it gets better. But I would say that a big focus, if there's a politician who needs to win off of talking bad about trans people or LGBT plus, or about villainizing every immigrant, not just the violent ones, like villainizing all immigrants. If you need to win off of just constant battles and fights with your neighbors, then that person probably will not be good for the economy, because he just like, you can talk your way around anything without actually performing. And yeah, I guess I would say that a good leader doesn't need to rely on the divide and conquer that some politicians do. They probably want us to come together and find solutions with our neighbors.
You wouldn't believe like one thing, we have people that are Russian. They look like they're American. I'm not trying to be like mean, because I'm Armenian. So most of the time, my grandma is from Lebanon. She's not like not recent, like back in the day, like 40, 50 years ago. She came in legally, no problem with that. I mean, she's an American citizen now. I was born here. She wasn't. My mom's a Canadian citizen too. Also, my brother is like United States citizen. My dad too.
Yeah, well, Trump wants to take away your Trump wants to take away your citizenship. He wants to end birthright citizenship, which would denaturalize a lot of people. So if you had like a grandparent that moved here and had a kid, or if your parents moved here and had a child, then it's possible that Trump wants to take that away from you. And people in the chat are talking about illegal immigrants, not undocumented. But if you look at the actual numbers, the vast majority of people Trump is going after right now are nonviolent, like undocumented people who are here working. The illegal, violent, illegal aliens or whatever. If that were true, if that was such a big issue, Trump would not be sending 8 or like 10 ICE agents to go after one college doctoral student who wrote an op-ed. If the resources are this strained and there's so much violent crime in America, Trump would not be dedicating half of ICE to crack down on the free speech of students who are here on a visa. It's hatred of immigrants. That's what's happening right now. If you wanted to take care of violent crime, you could do that. But what Trump is doing is also attacking American citizens. There's American citizens being detained and beat up by ICE right now, because ICE are legitimately pieces of filth. ICE should not be a thing. But for everyone listening, they're knocking down Americans' doors, because guess what they're saying? They're essentially making the argument that if an ICE agent looks at you and says you're hiding a Jew in the attic, I mean, if they look at you and say you're hiding an immigrant in there or an illegal in there, they can now raid your house. That's what the DOJ wants to say. The big government, the federal government, can make a claim, say, oh, we think there's an illegal alien in your house, and they can knock down your door, any American's door. That is the claim Trump is trying to make, and that is against our rights in many different ways. But I want everyone to understand that you might think it's going for illegals right now. You might think it's just going for the Jews in Nazi Germany, but it's going to come for you eventually if we degrade our rights. And that's the big thing we're talking about, is everyone's rights right now. Sorry.
Especially because one thing to mention, we have, I don't know if I told you that we have like a bunch like Russians, like like flooding the Wawas. We have them flooding like CVS all the way like down like where my mom's house is. And like most of the time, it's like there's like 15, 20 cars in the Wawa parking lot, and then they take the cups, fill them up with soda, and then they walk right out and take everything. And you think it's like a free for all. And then I'm like, me and mom are looking, and we're like, what? Like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, they come every day. Someone reported to the police, so the police tell them to get the hell out of here, that no one wants them here because they keep messing up the Wawa, then ripping stuff on the bathrooms. They keep ripping everything down. It's like, it's horrible.
You know, an interesting fact. And by the way, anyone watching, please call the number if you guys have a disagreement. Call the number. We can talk about it, or join Discord. Drop a like on the stream. Help me get in the algorithm better so I can get more callers. Thank you to this caller. I would also point out that undocumented, illegal, or illegal immigrants have a lower crime rate than naturally born American citizens. It's actually a really interesting fact. And immigrants in general, if you look at the crime database, it's a very nonviolent group in terms of like every population in America. One of the most nonviolent groups in general is going to be immigrants all the time, and it's been that way for a while. Because if you come to America, you're probably fleeing somewhere dangerous, and you want to be able to stay. You don't want to get deported. The idea that there's gangs ripping through America is 100% not true. If there were gangs ripping through America, we would see ICE getting into shootouts, okay? But we see ICE right now going after 25. Actually, no, not 25. We see 25 ICE agents going after one college girl who wrote an op-ed. There's a reason they're sending 25 Gestapo to go after one college girl for her speech. It's because they need to manufacture a crisis. If there were all these gangs again, or these terrorist groups, as they call them, if there was an invasion, all right, we would hear about ICE shootouts everywhere. So many different places. But it's hard to find them. And there's a reason they need to use Laken Riley's death for political purposes constantly. To wheel her body out, her dead body out there to use for political purposes. Those scum using her dead body for political purposes. They need to do that to keep the battle going, to keep the fight going. And I hope Americans are waking up, because it is a big problem, because they're scapegoating all immigrants, and it's not right. It's going to take away our freedoms too. And yeah, this government needs to stop. It does not pass the smell test. Why are they sending 15, 25, 50 ICE agents in an unmarked van going after one girl that wrote an op-ed? I thought they were going after the violent criminals. What are they doing? Where are my tax dollars going?
It's like they're letting like all the people to the country, then they're making us pay higher, and then they're making them like have lowered like prices and lower, like giving them Social Security and a bunch of like that.
That's not true. There's no immigrants getting Social Security. You cannot get that until you're a citizen, and if you pay into it for long enough, and then if you're over 65. So you cannot get Social Security unless if you're a citizen. There's no illegals getting that. They lied about that. If someone told you that,
I don't know. I thought someone said that for a minute.
Yeah, Elon Musk did say that, but he's a liar. And I hope you watch my channel, because we'll go over all that. But like, I do policy work, so I understand it a decent amount. But like for Social Security, the reason some immigrants have Social Security numbers is so they can pay taxes. So immigrants actually provide a huge tax base to the American economy, to the American government, and we actually are benefited from having immigrants here. So they might have Social Security numbers, but they're not drawing benefits. Yeah.
I mean, I went to the store today, and you see like soda prices. Remember, they were like $1 or $2. Now they're like $2.70 or $3.
Yeah, that Trump economy sucks, dude. Ugh. What is he doing? By the way, people watching, call in. People watching, call in. You guys are watching, but you don't want to talk. I don't get it. Just come talk to me. I don't bite. This is our only caller.
I can always call your number, right?
When I'm streaming, it's really just a random thing on who gets in first. But you're the only person calling right now, so I don't have anyone else to talk to. They're all scared. It's sad.
I mean, if you didn't mind, like, what are you still going to be like using a number? Like, if you still have it?
I just use this for the show. So it's not an actual, it's a fake number just for the show. So I only use it for call-ins.
I mean, what time is it for you?
It's Eastern. It's 10 p.m.
Yeah, I'm about like 10:08.
Hell yeah. They don't actually want to talk. I know they don't want to talk, because if they talk about this stuff, they look like silly gooses, and they don't, or silly geese. They don't want to be silly geese.
You know,
they just want to worship Trump's balls.
Was here, he would actually like talk more to me because he knows more, because he works in like the Philadelphia Society Hill Towers, so he knows, like, he watches the news, like, to see what happens. He doesn't like all those like other news people, and they like to make stuff up about, like, a bunch of stuff. I think that.
Who knows? Yeah, I don't know. Let me see. Wow, no one wants to come in, and usually I debate people, but they don't want to call in. It's really upsetting. I'm getting kind of sad. I see so many people talking, but they don't want to really have a conversation. Everyone talks. Everyone loves to talk, People just talk all the time.
Well, I'm a big talker.
Hell yeah. So yeah, I want I want to tax rich people more, and Trump wants to give them free things and tax them less. And I want to help Americans have a better chance at success and a happy life with their families. And Trump wants to make it harder and tax them with tariffs. So that's one reason I don't like Trump.
So one thing, so when you go live, will you still have the number? Like, because I could actually like put my mom's boyfriend. Read like those other ones.
If he disagrees and he wants to call in, I'll definitely talk to him. Yeah, if you want to do that, I'll have the same number when I go live if that's what you're asking. I appreciate the call. I do have someone actually calling to debate, but I appreciate the call, man. Have a good night.
How long are you live for?
Probably another till midnight, probably.
Okay.
2 hours. All right, yeah. Thank you, man. Have a good one.
You too.
What a nice kid. I want to talk to his mom's boyfriend. Oh,
hey, what's up, man?
Hey, what's up?
Hey, so I'm not super familiar with your channel. I just wanted to see what's going on.
Yeah, I get on here some nights and talk about some current events.
Sure. And so right now the debate is Trump bad, Trump good, Trump bad.
I'll be honest. I mean, that is the main topic in America, but I had Trump is bad for the past like 3 months. It's really just my, it's just the general statement to get people to call in, but it could be about anything.
Sure. And what side are you leaning on?
I'm definitely more on the left. But I mean, right now I talk to Republicans, and many of them are now joining Democrats, so it's hard to say. But when I say left, I don't mean like center left Democrat or moderate. I'd probably be more like definitely higher taxes on the wealthy. I want a healthcare system that's not ranked like 30th in the world. I want to make that better and get corruption out of politics, so that kind of stuff.
Sure, absolutely. I don't rational people would say those are bad things. But let me ask you this. Is there any points from the other side that kind of ring true to you? I'm not a Republican in any way. Okay. Never voted for a Republican, but I was hopeful, even though the election went this way, that I was hopeful that maybe some things that he was promising could have come true, like maybe better education with some manipulation of like changing the status quo, kind of like his whole campaign is just being a fucking outsider.
Yeah.
Is there anything that kind of rings true with you?
I would say that it's hard because I feel like immigrants are being scapegoated right now in America at the same level of as Jewish people were before the Holocaust. And I mean, like 15 years before that, when Nazi Germany was like rising. And I can explain that, but what I mean by that essentially is you could take any problem anywhere. It could be finance, it could be taxes, it can be housing, it can be truck drivers. Immigration is being blamed by the right wing for literally every problem. And I can agree with some of the problems. So like too much money in politics. I mean, they voted for Trump, who's the most corrupt president probably of all time. We can get into that if you want. But also, they literally are parading around pictures of immigrants and just laughing at being able to enact violence on them. And when you talk about law and using the state's violence or power to crack down on people, it should never be out of excitement. Like it should be out of like a solemn, like a stoic attitude. Like we got to take care of crime to make the streets safer. Like that kind of thing. But they're really They're focusing on immigration for everything. They're saying we got to kick the immigrants out because it'll help raise the housing supply. That makes no sense. Kicking immigrants out will make housing supply dwindle and become much more expensive. And then I was talking to someone about trucking, and they were blaming immigrants coming in for trucking jobs, and they were blaming that, or they were blaming low wages on immigrants. And I said, well, there's a shortage, and the big issue in reality, immigration is not even in the top 10 of issues for truck drivers. It's the big monopolies, not enough competition in the marketplace. Many truck drivers are forced to be independent contractors, which brings down rates. There's no type of labor union that's going to be, across all these different trucking companies. And trucking companies lay off people and hire them whenever they want to, whenever they feel like there's enough demand. So that allows the trucking industry to be very unstable. But now they're blaming just, immigrants for that issue, saying they don't speak English. And that's not even somewhat near what the actual problem is. So I would say that I agree with some of the problems that they have, but where I would say we need systemic reform, we need less corruption. They are just happy to blame trans people and immigrants for pretty much every problem. I wish that was not true, by the way, because I think that them being like this prevents us from having any real conversations about solving the problems.
Sure, I get that too. Like, they see a problem, and this man came along and said, these are the boogeymen.
Yeah.
And now that's the motive. Like, okay, yeah, that's the boogeyman. Kind of like you said, other dictators have done that same playbook. And I drive across the country a lot. I'm not a trucker, but I travel for work, and I see those schools everywhere just begging for people to come in and get their license and all these incentives.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
it doesn't seem like they're getting them.
Yeah, there's not enough workers in America in general. So immigration helps us grow our economy. Just really quick. So if we do a mass deportation and keep on doing it like Trump says, that'll decrease our GDP by 2% and make us lose probably $400 billion in revenue. It'll shrink our entire economy and have a huge, and probably cause a recession. If we had a path to citizenship for all the peaceful, hardworking immigrants in this country, if we had a path to citizenship, our economy would grow by like 4%. So it's like that too is just, I don't know.
So when you say path to citizenship, like, I'm dating an immigrant. She's on a visa here. I see that as a path, but it's not like the most convenient, affordable, quick thing to do. It took a long time for her to get over here. And I know a lot of people come with jobs, and then they stay afterwards. And what do you mean by a path? Because there are legal paths, and there are, less legal paths, and then there's completely illegal paths already.
So if someone said, for example, there is an immigrant family and they were on a working visa, and this is happening right now. There's a couple that had a really good restaurant, and they had to move back to Mexico. Extremely skilled chefs, and or I think one of them was, but they owned like a business. And ICE is going after everyone right now, like rabid dogs. They need a leash. They are people who could not make the actual law enforcement agency, so they had to become ICE agents. And it does not select for the best people, the people that they have to go in and rip out kids from their mother's arms. Like it's just not a profession many good people go into. And I love law enforcement. I love our military, but I will not say anything good about ICE agents. I feel like that's gonna be my thing I'm saying from now on, because there's nothing good to say about those assholes. But anyways, back to the actual point. If you're in America, there's some people who were like, every president says we're gonna have a pathway to citizenship. And if you're on a working visa for 10 years, and all of a sudden the government says, oh well, you have no criminal record, you've been working hard, you're a member of your community, you had kids here, whatever. But now we're going to cut away your chance to become an American because we did not make a process because our government failed. And we're going to use billions of taxpayer dollars to ship you off back to your country. It would make much more sense to say to that person, you're ingrained in the community. You have your neighbors love you. You have kids. You have a family. You're an active participant in the local school. You have a business. It would make much more sense to say, you know what, we're going to give you a pathway to citizenship. We're going to tax you, and you're going to be a productive member of America. We need more people here. We have a declining birth rate. It'll help our entire system. Versus mass deportations, which cost $300 billion, $400 billion to do, and will shrink our economy by 4%. So I'd rather give that person just a clear shot to be an American citizen, because I know our system has abused them for so long, getting them from working visa to working visa to be abused by corporations or whatever. So that person is the exact, and largely, and many of them are escaping dictatorships and they make it to America to be free. And that's the exact kind of person I want in America. That's how our country started. So that's what I usually mean by that.
I fully agree with that. Like, we used to be a beacon, a chance, a way to prosper, have a good family, good life, all that, and it kind of seems harder and harder. But that's more something out of Trump's power, I think, or any president's power. But something you said brought a question to my mind. Oh, so what do you think? Do you think Hillary, Obama, those people were liberal enough with their views on immigration?
That's an interesting conversation, because Obama was very hard on immigration. So was Clinton.
Yeah,
I mean, Obama
they
ran his
both said
campaign
on
saying,
campaigning.
yeah,
They both campaigned saying, like, I'm gonna kick all these people out if you came here illegally. And
you got to learn English. Yeah, they said that the entire campaigns. And somehow, like, Obama and Biden both deported more people than Trump did his first and second term. And somehow Democrats don't get the rep for being anti-immigrant or tough on immigration, but it's largely because of the aggression and that's why I say it's racism. And there's definitely a portion of the left which I think abuses words like that, and it's when a white kid sings along to the N-word in a Little Baby song or Kendrick or whatever, and it's like, well, that kid's insensitive. I never said that. I think that person needs to have a conversation. You can sing a song and be kind of silly, but the true racism is, like, for example, right now an ICE agent, they're essentially saying you have no rights if you're brown. If you're brown in America and you have an accent, we're going to be able to walk up to you, say, show me your papers. And if you don't show us your papers instantly, we're going to put you in a van and detain you for 10 days. And this has happened to multiple American citizens. That is kind of new under Trump. ICE being rabid dogs, like I said before. But yeah, Obama and Hillary, they did not push hard enough to, like, a lot of politics is giving a compelling counter narrative, and I hated when Kamala Harris refused to talk about trans people and immigrants, because running from these issues means the only one talking about these issues are the right wing and the far right wing, because the far right wing has completely taken over the Republican Party. And I'm done calling them MAGA Republicans. There's Republicans to me at this point. And I don't care about parties, but I just hate making caveats when the entire party's voting for this stuff anyway, like in Congress.
They have to be on his ass, or else they might lose a primary or something.
Yeah. But yeah, like when Kamala, the counter vision to Trump saying they're all rapists and killers, if you go outside, you're going to die, and they're all terrible people and disgusting, they're rapists. Some might be decent, but they're all rapists. Like when Trump says that, we need a strong counter narrative about the benefits of immigration. Like, the only reason this country competes with China is because having immigrants come in to do the shitty jobs and to also do the high level jobs. Like, there's a combination of immigrants giving us a low level manufacturing base, which is extremely needed, and white immigrants have done this too, like coal mines and railroads, Irish and Polish, and every immigrant in America basically was able to work their way into being an American by doing shitty jobs. It's just how it's been. It's not right, but that's how it's been. America has thrived because of it. And also, America can get researchers from every country across the world. Now we're losing those. Now American tourism is down 30%. That's going to be another $200 billion in lost revenue. And we're losing all the researchers that would come here otherwise, and now they're going to Europe and other countries, and that's a huge loss to our economy. That has propped up our economy, and our research labs on universities that they're cutting off funding to. That has propped up our economy more than anyone actually can understand, really.
Sure, but I agree that we need people coming in because we're not, keeping our birth rate up. But to your point of we need those people to do shitty and good jobs, I think those good, high-paying jobs are being taken by skilled, educated people, and they probably, I don't have any data to back this up, but just my guess is those people are actually applying legal ways or finding jobs that will, make accommodations or something like that. And those, as you say, shitty jobs, those manufacturing, the fields, all those other small stuff that people in America don't want to do are being taken by illegal immigrants. Isn't that just kind of a weird way of just like manipulating labor, that like, oh, I'm just going to pay this guy who came here illegally to do this shitty job that no one else wants to pay.
Oh, that's
for.
not my argument, by the way. That's not my argument. So like I'm making arguments where someone says, for example, immigrants are bringing crime and killing our country. That's my argument for those people who are extremely selfish and self-serving. So like when it comes to labor, there's a lot of jobs right now that pay good wages that Americans don't want to do, that I would let immigrants become, legal citizens or become green card holders or have a social security number and pay taxes, where they can make a decent wage. And there's still, like you said, trucking and a bunch of other jobs that pay $12, $13, $14, $15 an hour that immigrants will be willing to do that are still shit jobs. But I don't want anyone making $2 an hour picking fruit in a field. I'd be paying more money for that. I'd be okay with that. But what's happening right now is a complete distortion of everything. I mean, immigrants and the topic of immigration and libertarians often make this argument. And I definitely agree where if you're going to justify the government pulling up to someone's house and putting them in a van with no due process, or just like, accusing people of crimes and saying, hey, you look like you're brown and have an accent, get in the car. If that's the standard, there should be a really high bar for what the government needs to, fulfill before they can enact state violence upon someone and throw a human being into a van. I feel like it needs to be a pretty high bar for the federal government to do that without cause, and without a court order and all that kind of stuff. So that's another issue I have with this. And you could look up the stories of American citizens already being detained. There was an American family that was in a house that belonged to an immigrant before, and ICE came and ripped them out of their house in their underwear. 4 women, or 1 woman and 3 girls, ripped them out of their house and tore apart the house and like stole items. And they said, "We're looking for the illegals." Yeah, sure. That's what Nazi Germany did too. They're looking for the Jews or whatever. We're gonna now take away the other rights of everyone in Nazi Germany. But it was too late before they found out. So we're really pushing to make sure this exploitation of American values and freedoms doesn't go too far that direction.
Absolutely. I fully agree with that. And it is also just really scary that, Trump is a lot of talk and you never know if something's actually going to be true or not. But he's hinted that maybe we should also deport Americans. Like that. Oh, here we go. Anyone's fair game, maybe. Who knows? Like he has no LiDAR. There's no way to tell what's true or false or just a bullshit in the moment thing.
Well, yeah,
but,
and he already violated
sure.
he violated a Supreme Court order already. He violated one. So, I mean, at that point, if you're not going to listen to the Supreme Court, then at that point, public pressure is the only thing stopping you.
Yeah, public opinion, I guess.
Or the Kilmar Abrego Garcia case, where everyone wants to say like, oh, this guy's an evil, illegal immigrant. Well, it's like, well, for one, the guy's been here since he's been 16, like 13 years. He escaped El Salvador, escaped gang violence. He has 0 criminal record. They found 1 accusation from his wife, who talked about being in an abusive relationship and just like being in a tense situation that she felt unsafe in. Then they resolved it, and they've been happy the past like few years. And she wants him home, obviously, for their 3 kids. I'm pretty sure they have multiple autistic children. And regardless of those facts, it doesn't matter. Like, they're trying to frame, the big government said, you look like a terrorist. We're going to ship you off to a torture camp in El Salvador. Which, why do we have a prison camp in El Salvador? Everyone forgot to ask that question because how batshit crazy this stuff is. Like, we have prisons in America. Why are we sending money to El Salvador to do this? Especially if we can't ask for people back if the government messes up. But yeah, the character assassination, the fact that Trump believes a shitty screenshot of MS-13 on the guy's knuckles, and so many Americans saying, well, he's an illegal, he doesn't need due rights or due process. And my big thing, I actually thought about this earlier, how immigrants and illegals are not human beings to a lot of Trump supporters, and not all of them. But it seems that if you say the government stole this person, put them into a van, they have no criminal record, the government had no reason or cause, they said you look like a terrorist based off your tattoos and the hat you were wearing, and we actually shipped them off in a plane to El Salvador, to a forced labor camp where people have been tortured, starved, beaten to death, and they work in camps until they die, essentially. If we say that happened to a person from the big government, a Trump supporter probably says like, oh, that's bad. But if you say, oh, it's okay, he's an illegal, he had an accent, he didn't even speak American, he had tattoos, then like at that point they're like, oh, well, it's okay if he's an illegal, he came here illegally. And it's like, there's so many illegal things you can do. And I don't know, the idea that being an illegal immigrant, for example, which a majority of these people are not illegal immigrants, a lot of them are not. The idea that we can put that one illegal thing in an area where we can violate the Constitution and do whatever we want to someone, and they pick that one space to be extremely violent with, is extremely troubling. It really does feel like if you say immigrant or illegal, then at that point they no longer care what happens to those human beings, as if they're animals. The dehumanization, and that's the point of Trump parading around these pictures on the White House lawn of these illegals they arrested. It's like, hey, you're violating the rights of people who have no criminal record, and and violating Supreme Court rulings. Don't show us pictures of a child rapist. We're not talking about that person, obviously. But their goal is to say to their fans, to their followers, every immigrant, every illegal immigrant should be looked at as if they are this child rapist. That is their number one goal for dehumanization. And every time we say, oh, they're doing something illegal and this person's probably innocent, they have an autism awareness tattoo. They thought this autism awareness tattoo was a gang tattoo. Now this person's in a torture dungeon in El Salvador, in a torture dungeon. And they're like, well, some illegals rape people. It's like, what I'm talking about, but their goal is to dehumanize. So when we say illegal, if the government does something to an illegal alien, then it's okay, no matter what it is. And that's a very bad place historically to get into as a country. And one of the main reasons we have to fight for everyone's rights in America, because they really do think that immigrants in general are dogs. And if you don't have the pure-blooded American, and by the way, I want to make sure that I say, I don't think that every Trump supporter thinks super complex into this. But I'd probably say it's the same level of problem if they're going to fall into the same cycle.
Sure. It's important, I think, to keep away from that deplorables kind of rhetoric that kind of really fuck people over. Yeah, I agree with that. Ironically, it kind of seems like we need, quote, law and order, and what Trump is providing is not even law or order. It's his will. It's the will of the people, but without any courts, without any, due process. Nothing else. Is just whatever he says goes, which is, like you said, those people should be treated like people. They should have rights. They should have, their day in court. They should have their hearings, not just be shipped off immediately.
Yeah, and when they say
it's ironic, the Republican Party is just like gone. It's not like Constitution.
They've never been here though. I don't think they ever cared. They don't care about the Bible either. The arguments they make. So when they bring up if I say to a Trump supporter that it matters to respect due process because every person in America is guaranteed due process, because how can you know if someone's illegal or a criminal or whatever? And innocent people can be abused by the government until you have to have the government provide evidence, because due process is a limit on what the government can do to control you. They must provide evidence before enacting state violence upon you. Sure. I can say that, and they'll say, well, what about Laken Riley? And I'll say, I mean, yeah, that's terrible. She got killed by a terrible person, but the person that killed her was in a court system and got charged with the full power of the law. And then they say, but what about Laken Riley? Did she get due process? It's like, well, no, due process is a limit on the government. And we don't want to take away due process for anyone, because then all of us have less rights. The government has more authoritarian power over us. But they say something about, danger and everything's a national emergency and be fearful, although we live in the most peaceful period in human history, although it does not feel like that because everything's always crazy. Imagine the same argument for, let's have no crime, all right? Let's have zero crime. Number one, big policy we can do to prevent crime. We can just take away the Second Amendment. We'll have no more gun deaths. If there's no more guns, hate speech. If we have no First Amendment, we can cut down on hate speech. And if we cut down on hate speech, no one's going to be motivated to do hate crimes, right? And also, if we take away due process, and also if Americans don't have any ability to be protected from unreasonable searches or seizures, well, guess what? We could just now go into people's houses and make sure we could just scan their housing and their browser history at any time. And we could see who's a criminal. We could cut down on even more crime. And then guess what? We could track every movement someone makes. Like in China, they have a full surveillance state. We could just have a full surveillance state and live in a dictatorship, because that's what happens if you say everything's a national emergency. Eventually, you end up in a dictatorship if you push for a utopia, whether it's communism or fascism. You always end up in a utopia. You could always justify taking away rights if you call everything a national emergency, which is why Donald Trump signed more national emergency declarations than any president in American history by like 5 times what any other president ever did. That's why he's done that so far, to take away your rights. To take away rights.
Sure. But aren't some of those points that you just said some liberal points?
It's okay to violate the Second Amendment if it means keeping people safe?
That they want access to certain social media. They want to, like, during the Biden administration, it seemed like, according to, the social media platforms, that they were getting instructions of who and what messages to block.
That never happened. What should be said? No, that never happened either. There was some guidance to say, hey, can you please not boost vaccine misinformation? There was another one that said there might be Russian disinformation coming, but there's no proof of any government official, even from the private company's perspective, saying you need to say this or block that. There is proof of Trump doing that right now. Like today, for example, there's a direct open
Didn't
example.
Facebook and Twitter both say that they had directions during COVID about what public information should be boosted? Or that seems like an interference to me.
Yeah, it would seem like that if you don't look at the evidence and you just trust whatever the rich people say about the government relationship, because they want to be in favor with the current administration to make sure they don't come down on them. Because the story was different when, even before Trump left office during COVID. Like, the same stuff about vaccines and everything, they were censoring and boosting before Trump left office, when Trump was still in government. So a lot of this stuff happened when Trump was still president, and it gets blamed on Biden somehow, when Biden didn't take office until 2021. And the evidence that Facebook provided, for example, it just did not substantiate those claims. If Mark Zuckerberg had it, he would probably share it. Pretty smart guy, pretty big company. He just went on Joe Rogan and said some things. I don't really trust people just based off podcasts. But we do have an example today alone. I mean, Trump's been doing crazy stuff. I mean, if you buy his cryptocurrency, if you're top 200, you get a special dinner with the president. If you're top 25, you get a one-on-one meeting with the president, literally just pay for play. And today Amazon said they were going to, there was a rumor Amazon was going to include tariff charges on their checkout to show those prices. And Trump said, don't do that, Jeff. You gave me $1 million. Remember, we're going to investigate you. And Amazon said, oh, sorry, guys, we're not going to do that. And the White House said, good idea, good choice, good decision. That is the most purest form of corruption.
My point is that I think both parties do something along those lines. I think the government thinks it has too much power, or maybe has too much power, and it tries to influence private companies that it shouldn't have any influence in, either social media or Amazon or whatever. It does seem like either it's a Republican or a Democrat in the seat. The government is trying to influence these private companies about free speech, about social media, one way or another. And it's icky that Jeff Bezos owns his own thing and Elon owns his own thing. Like, it's icky. It's gross. But it's a step away from government, at least.
But the issue is...
one step away.
The issue is, okay, so I could say we have police in America. They also have police in China. But we obviously have a different relationship here with the police state. It's not nearly as bad. So there's huge differences in severity between both of them. And when you talk about the Biden examples, there's 0 examples of Biden just saying we need right-wingers to be boosted or left-wingers to be boosted. There was one thing about vaccine disinformation from a different agency, not even from Biden himself. And then there was something else from saying there might be Russian disinformation. But there was never, for example, an FBI agent that told them, hey, censor the Hunter Biden laptop story. Those were decisions private companies made by themselves to make sure they didn't spread disinformation. And their processes took...
As far as we know, but we might not be privy to all the information. It might just be under lock and key that we can't know about all those things. But
so Mark Zuckerberg is going to go on Facebook or he's going to go on Rogan and talk about the huge government corruption and not provide any evidence, even when that would give him huge favor with Trump. I feel like that'd be something they would release.
Maybe he's under legal obligation. Maybe I don't know all the workings of the FBI and all that stuff, but it is possible.
Well,
my main point was that both parties.
Do you see what I mean though when you say both parties do things that are bad when one party's infinitely worse, openly?
The Trump administration is always just, like you said, open. we don't give a fuck about the rules. Yeah, where I've interacted with liberals that would go along some of those lines that you said about taking away all the guns, because zero gun deaths is more achievable.
Yeah, and
with
I would disagree
no
with that. But I'm
Sure,
saying, like,
sure.
because if it was not in our constitution, that'd be a different conversation. But it's in our constitution. And when we talk about law and following it, like, Americans do accept, like, 80% of Americans agree with background checks. So, like, there are some limitations people accept on certain rights, but completely bypassing them, that would be the difference. Like, Democrats might make arguments to shift different precedents, but then Trump will say, let's shut down. Like, Trump literally called to shut down the Constitution when he lost the election in 2020. He wanted to seize voting machines. And he still says that election was stolen, and he signed executive orders to go after people that certify the election, directly going after political opponents, which is why Biden did all those pardons, which I disagree with. Well, I disagree with the pardons, but I also disagree with Trump, and I don't think Biden would have done it without Trump saying he was going to be completely lawless. My main issue is, like, Democrats want to raise taxes on the wealthy somewhat. They want to have actual laws for monopolies. They want to maintain consumer financial protections. They support the labor boards. They break
so what
companies
Democrats
more.
are? Is there anyone in particular you're thinking of when you say Democrats want those things? I haven't seen it.
Joe
Maybe
Biden was the most
AOC.
pro-labor president in American history since FDR. Like, objectively, based off the policies, his National Labor Board appointees, Howie Linekan, as well, involved in the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, and taking away junk fees and cracking down on companies that are trying to price gouge and screw over Americans, having Medicare negotiate drug prices with companies to lower drug costs. And his labor reforms, he was one of the he first president in forever to cross a picket line. Like, there's many things that Biden did that were very pro-labor.
Maybe I just have a bad taste with that. What was it? The shipping yard union or something like that during COVID. Maybe I just have a bad taste for that.
Yeah, I mean, everything I said about corruption. So there's one executive order in particular where Joe Biden made it illegal for his cabinet and his administration to receive bribes and gifts from big donations or big lobbyists or whatever companies and whatever that might be. So Joe Biden made it illegal. Trump actually got in and signed an executive order to reverse the gift ban. So there's one thing that Biden made illegal. Biden made it less corrupt, and Trump came in and said, you know what, we got to be more corrupt. And you can look up the executive order. I don't have the number on me, but if you Google, like, those keywords, that's one example where it's like Biden literally did something that was anti-corruption. Trump made it pro-corruption again. And I don't have it on my hands right now, but there's many reasons. And I definitely hope you call in again sometime. And we could talk about more specific, if you find any policies you want to discuss on those grounds. But I'm very confident in those assertions of those policies. Sure. And like, if you look up the Trump crypto rankings and how blatant that is, and who Trump puts in charge of these different things, look up the Executive Club in DC. It's a club that costs $500,000 to get into. It gives you exclusive access to the president's main people. Huge club in DC now called the Executive Branch. Literally just like the most pay-for-play ever. And yeah, it's very blatant. And Nancy Pelosi would blush to look at how much money Trump made in the past week. And I know Nancy Pelosi is the one they bring up for stock trading, but it's not even I hate that too, by the way, but it's not even a competition. Yeah. And I'm like, there's Republicans who talk about her and don't talk about Trump. And I'm like, you guys are literally just the definition of partisan hacks. At least Pelosi, you can say, like, maybe you have insider information, or you understand, you're connected. You're well connected. You make some little cute little bets, some bets based off the information. Trump is just like, hey, pay me money, dude. Just dump it in there anonymously. I'm not even going to use, I'm not even going to invest in companies. It's going to be a fake cryptocurrency. Just pay me directly. And Republicans are okay with it. It's just like, we cannot be okay with any of this if we're going to be, better as a country.
I misunderstood a law back in the day, but didn't Trump in his first term sign orders saying that you can't be a lobbyist after a certain amount of time? Isn't that a move forward that Democrats didn't do, or anyone didn't do in the past? People that work in his administration can't be lobbyists for so many years and blah, blah, blah.
Well, you're talking about the revolving door loophole. I don't know if he did do that. If he did, then... Oh, here you go. Wait 1 second. Let's see. Ethics pledges. Trump ethics pledges. Trump revokes Biden's lobbying ban. Oh no. Wait a second. Does it say revolving door here? Wait. This might be huge and monumental. One second. Let's see, revolving door. You know what's actually kind of crazy? Because Trump did talk about this, but in the Biden era ethics pledge that you had to take it, funnily enough, Biden made it harder to be a revolving door administrative official to go into lobbying. Trump reversed it and made it easier to do that again. So, like, you know, Trump says a lot of stuff, but Biden actually, I don't know. It's even on tariffs. I mean, Biden did tariffs better than Trump did, and actually provided some subsidies for American manufacturing on the other side for semiconductors and chips. So, like what you just said, it's just, you know, it is hard because I mean, I watch this stuff all the time, so I'll catch it. But yeah, like Biden made the problem you just said you cared about. Biden made it better, and Trump made it worse intentionally, and that was included in the same thing that I said with the gift ban that Trump reversed. So
yeah, it's all concerning. I won't take up more of your time, but I did want to ask about, you know, what I started with, those things that maybe Trump could potentially have positives, maybe future Republicans could have positives in this direction. And in particular, I was thinking about the education. It seems like our country is kind of flatlined, if not declining quite quickly with our education. He's thinking about a shakeup. I don't agree with, you know, eliminating the Department of Education, but it could have upswings. It could have positives. Just wanted to hear your thoughts on possible things that closing or shakeups, something could change that could be for the better, or it could, you know, make us way, way worse.
So this is a really tough conversation because the best countries with education K through 12, they actually fund all of their education through a Department of Education. So like there's in America, you have local funding from property taxes. So the really rich areas have really good public schools that might even be better than private schools. But then in the really poor areas, you have the worst schools in America. And the Department of Education helps that a little bit. What was that?
Well, I was going to say some of those worst performing schools on these standardized tests have the biggest money allocated to them.
From Department of Education, but that's because they're the poorest schools, and that money that they get does not catch them up nearly enough. So like, it does like when they say, for example, I've seen these studies before or the maps where they say, well, this school got all the money from Department of Education, and they still suck at math or whatever. It's also a poor area with high crime rates and no opportunity, and the funding does not, like I said, it does not match even somewhere near. Well, it's not even culture, but if you're in a rich area with a rich school, then your parents all have money. You all have connections. You all have Ivy League connections. You go from Ivy League connection to parents that don't even have work boots. You know, it's just a completely different. The entire system is messed up. If we wanted to fix education in America, we would go to a more centralized funding mechanism. But we're not going to do that. But all the best performing countries, and I'm sure you could look it up, they all do a more top-down funding, because it makes no sense to say like, oh, this public school is going to be much better than the poor public school, and then it's just not fair, and killing the Department of Education it's probably going to make the disparities worse. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's kind of tough.
It's tough, and I see your point that the numbers don't lie. Those educations in those countries with lots of money put into education from the state, they do produce. But my worry is, I was thinking back from a debate with, I think it was Kennedy and Nixon, and they were both adamant that they wouldn't have the government controlling, the public education, because who knows where that could lead. We're kind of seeing the consequences of that. A guy that some people don't like got to be president, and now he has the potential to alter in huge ways how education is ruled out. He can change the textbooks, he can change the curriculum, because he has the appointees.
Local governments do curriculum, though. That's the thing.
They can. Like in these small schools that need that public funding, it's not coming from the tax dollars around the area. It's coming from the department. If the department says, hey, this curriculum or this program or whatever does not meet our standards or goes out of bounds of something that we like, they can hold that money, which is basically choking or killing the school and
Yeah, but
forcing
that's
them
not legal.
to do what they want.
That's the issue. That's the issue, though. That never happened before Trump. Like with high schools, like that
No,
did
it
not
did.
happen. It was more about it was what's it called? Non-content based. It'd be funding based on like what the area needs. But Department of Education does not do curriculum at all. Like the executive
Yes,
orders
they
Trump
do.
is signing are illegal.
No, they do. They like, oh, you have this like agriculture program. We don't want your money going there that we are giving you because like it's not direct money, but if you're spending money on that, you should be spending on this. Therefore, if you don't close that program, we won't give you the money. Or your test scores are this, therefore you get this amount of money. Is that not just a scary way of having a central, scary like government overlord of choosing what is taught in schools?
I'm just saying the Department of Education is banned from doing that. If you had an instance of that, you could show me. But I mean, they're not allowed to do what you just said. That's extortion. That's coercion. And Trump is doing that now. But I mean, if you have an example from Biden, I'd love to look at it. But yeah, they're not supposed to do that. Trump is doing that with every place in the country now. But I mean, I just need an example because you could just say it's happening, but I just need to actually look at a case of it happening.
Sure. Maybe I can find something and throw it into chat. But
yeah, for sure.
Like just the idea of that being a possibility isn't. If you wanted that to not be a possibility, you would have to decentralize that power and bring it to the states in a more constitutional way.
You could have that at any level, though. Like Department of Education is mostly a funding mechanism, and the fact Trump is using it for that purpose, I mean, it is bad. But I would probably say that it's so hard because it's such an apolitical branch of government that was never this political, and like, if like, oh god, Trump is like the worst case scenario of person to be a president. So I wouldn't throw away the entire mechanism just because we have a terrible president that's going to abuse laws and use everything as for extortion and coercion. I mean, if you want to say, like, for example, I'd be okay with, like, right now we do property taxes. If we did like a state funding across the board, I mean, that could be an argument. That'd be much better than what we have now, where it's property taxes, which is pretty stupid. Like I could say maybe that could be a thing, but because states already can control like curriculum and stuff, but I don't know. It's really complicated because it would need to be content neutral and just do funding. So yeah, it's a public education is like a terrible topic to talk about.
Well, you can't just say that. You just can't say public education is not a good topic to talk about.
I'm saying it's a terrible thing to discuss. It's very complicated.
Person. He's a very scary person. Another scary person could go on the right side. Another scary person could come up on the left side. It all kind of seems it all blurs to me.
Yeah, no, but if you have a president who breaks laws, no, but that's the thing though. This is against the law. But Congress won't do checks. Okay, judges are already saying that Trump's funding the way he's withholding funding is illegal. Okay, Trump's doing illegal things. So like. Yeah, if we have a lawless president who breaks laws, any president can break any law, though. I feel like it's just like a hard standard because I'd rather just not elect a president who breaks laws. And if he does break laws, I'd rather have a Congress that's not okay with it because the Congress right now is okay with him breaking laws. So we're just saying the checks and balances being dissolved in general in America. That's my biggest concern. It's not that program itself because you can use anything for bad then if that's the case. The laws don't let them do it, but he's just doing illegal things. So
Sure. So my point being, if you're worried about the kid breaking the toy and misusing it, take the toy away. Don't have that ability. Nowhere in the Constitution does say that the president should have all these powers, saying that this is the education budget or this is that or what. Like he is manipulating. He may go past the Constitution, saying like I will choose these, even though he doesn't have that power. But the reason why he has the door open, the door is open because it exists.
It's not a real power, though. It's okay. So agencies are made by Congress. Congress does oversight. Congress puts these pieces in place. Trump doing this with funding, that's why it's illegal because Congress decides funding. So like Trump is supposed to execute Congress's laws faithfully, and Trump is not doing that. He's doing illegal things. And when you say like we could break the toys, that could be an argument for not having anything at all. Like we could just have. You're making a libertarian argument to say like it should be all local level, which I mean you can make arguments for that, but then China's going to kill us because China has a well-oiled machine. They have a dictatorship, and they're doing huge top-down investment in their entire country.
China is scary. China is a boogeyman, but that doesn't mean that we should throw away rights or throw away the Constitution just because China is scary. If that's the argument, like,
I'm not talking about
China's doing this, we had to take away these rights because China's catching up.
All I'm saying is there could be reasons to have things done at a federal level for the entire country to move in the same direction in a powerful, concerted way for infrastructure and other purposes. And if we go away from that, countries are going to dominate us that actually can do cooperation on a massive scale. And we need a president who can actually be a human being, unlike a reality TV show. And I said nothing about the Constitution, by the way. Like, if anything, like, again, Trump has defined the Constitution. Congress makes these agencies, and Congress should be doing their duty to do checks and balances. We are just seeing. I just want everyone to understand that's watching too. We're just seeing a full, a full collapse of American checks and balances and American democracy and American freedom. That's why this stuff seems so convoluted and so weird. It's because our democracy is falling apart. Like what Trump is doing is not normal. It does not make sense. And just because Congress sucks and Congress did not make clear or new laws or good laws, doesn't mean we should blow up the entire system, which is what people advocate for. We should probably. I wish all the anger was in a productive way, but it's impossible to be productive if all the anger is going to be aimed at trans people and immigrants to just like hate whatever other people have different cultures. So yeah, I don't know.
Sure, I agree with that, but you saying that Congress makes these things and Congress is not doing their job, and yeah, I agree. Like, they seem ineffective, and if something happens and Trump just rolls over the Constitution, Congress has been shut up. It's been stopped. It's no language is going out, at least on the Republican side, because they have to follow him or else they might get left in the dust. Take away all that too. I'm not saying blow up the system. I'm just saying if it's not written in the Constitution, why does Congress also have that power? Like, I'm not trying to make a libertarian argument, but the safest option, something that I can affect, I can go to my school board, I can go to my local representatives, I can maybe influence a small state election. Obviously, in America, there's so much money in those high politics that there's no way I'm going to get, someone huge, someone, I don't know, a senator or something elected or not elected. It's called campaign money. It's not something I can actually change. And people are feeling left. They're feeling left out of the policy and the progress that could be made or taken away, because it doesn't seem like anything we do matters. There's just billions of dollars running around that we can't affect. But I could maybe affect a small state election.
Well, I wish I could. So, I mean, the issue is that people do not vote in the local elections we do have. So, I mean, I understand that, but people do not vote. If they did vote, this country would look a lot different. Young people don't vote. People don't vote in general for school board elections. And school board, you could really influence your schools. And right now, Republicans are getting out to vote for school board so they could ban books and ban trans people. So it's not like they're motivated by good reasoning either. And I would just say we had agencies and departments since our country was founded, essentially. We had a Department of War and we had like 3 departments to start with. The agencies are constitutional. The Supreme Court has reinforced this many, many, many times. So that is very constitutional. The reason we have agencies is so that Congress can have an ability to like shape what the executive does and have oversight over specific agencies that have specific tasks, because the world is too complicated to have just like one person be in charge of the entire executive. The argument is saying like we should have no Department of Education because the president might use it wrong. At that point, we should have no military either, or any other, the agency, FBI. We should have nothing at all, because the president can much easier or much more easily abuse the military and violence than, the Department of Education. I would say our issues are more systemic. I understand people feeling left out, but I just don't see the proof of it, because when they can be involved, they don't show up. I go to community meetings all the time. The numbers say people don't show up. Americans are very weak, and Americans need to start working harder. Honestly, we need to have personal responsibility in our own communities, and we're going to see the change happen across the country, even at the federal level. But right now, Americans are very I don't know if we're pampered from being at peace for so long as a country, if we're too wealthy as a country. I don't know what it is, because there are problems we could solve, but we're not getting out there rioting about like we're going to get more health care or we're going to get money out of politics. We're rioting for Donald Trump losing an election, and he lied to us about it, and also we got to get the trans people out of the bathrooms. So I hear you, man. I hear you. I just don't think that's the world we live in. But yeah, I'll give you a response to that.
Maybe it's a chicken and egg situation. Like, maybe people are so disinterested in politics and news and all that because they see that it's relentless, it can't be changed. But maybe if they did see the option to do the small elections to make an impact. Like, we would only know if it actually happened. But I would be hopeful that with the American spirit, that if you saw the opportunity, if you wanted to go down to your board, if you want to go talk to your mayor or your governor or something, it seems more achievable to make that change and have people actually participate in democracy on a smaller level than on this big scale.
I have one big question
stuff.
then. The one big question would be, and I agree with you, you can affect change, but I go to my local borough meeting, okay, and that meeting for the council has probably 2 people in the room in the audience. It's a small room with 2 people. The school board meetings have a little bit more people, but the turnout for that race is still like 20%. And you're saying that the more local races are, the more people should come out to vote because they can affect it. But the more local races are, the less people vote, and the more national they are, like the presidency, is the time people vote the most, right? So like that is kind of the opposite of
But isn't that the chicken? I think it's a chicken and egg. Maybe that's just an opinion, but because those small things don't have a viewable impact, that why should I go talk to this guy? He doesn't seem to give a shit, and he doesn't have any way of changing.
No, but the local budgets in your local city for potholes or trash collection or crime or whatever else, that's the most material changes you can affect and actually see in front of you. The president, I mean, you probably could have not been paying attention to the news other than COVID and not knew who the president was, honestly, depending on what industry you're in. Like, the president is probably affects your daily life the least. I mean, Trump's been in office. If I wasn't watching the news, I probably wouldn't know about it yet. I would see egg prices are a little bit high. Maybe people are stressed about something. I would not know that the president has changed. But if I got a new school board, I would see those policies every day and see them like right away. So,
yeah, maybe people are just like so numb to the last 30 years of just beratement with news and policies, and doesn't seem to be tangible that they can change anything. Maybe they're just dull to it.
I just don't think they care. I really just don't think they care enough, honestly.
Well, that's disappointing. That's pretty sad. I hope you're wrong.
I want people to care, and that's why I do this show. But I'm right, and it's sad. It is sad. Young people don't vote either, and that's the big thing because they're like, why doesn't the world ever change? If young people voted at the same rate that plus 55 do, then the country would look like Europe. To be honest, they'd probably have high-speed rail. We'd probably have universal health care. We'd probably have less money in politics. We'd probably have less chemicals in the food. But it's whatever. Now we have to talk about trans people every day. Yeah, I appreciate the call though.
All right. Peace out, man. Have a good night.
Someone else call in real quick. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys. I know you're saying kick now. I know. Wait a second. Should I do a new stream? Let me think. Okay, guys. Will you? I have another caller on deck. Someone said pick up the phone. If I make a new shorts stream, will you go there, please? Please. Please, please, please. Let's fix this. Okay, I'm gonna send you over to my other shorts stream. Thank you for $5. Remember when Biden called Clarence Thomas the uppity N-word? Oh wow, did he say that? When did Biden say that? Someone verified it. Did Biden call Clarence Thomas? Did Biden call Clarence Thomas an uppity N-word? Okay, buddy, let's look at the internet. Based. I don't know if he said it, but if he did, it was wrong to say. If he did, but Joe Biden, he could say anything. He's Joe Biden. He can't say anything wrong. He's just a baby. Okay, guys, I'm gonna make a new YouTube shorts. I'm gonna take this caller that's spamming me. My jaw's getting tight again. I gotta give it a rest. I'm making a new YouTube shorts. I'm gonna direct you right there, though. Thank you for watching. Go to the new one and drop a like right away. Okay, this is halftime technically. Okay, see you guys there. New YouTube shorts. I'm shutting this one down. It's gonna take you to the other one. Thank you.